Warm greetings from the High 10. It's Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. This commentary is pertaining to two updates about Megan Boswell, her court trial, and the death and murder of her daughter, and also a Summer Wells update pertaining to private investigators conducting a search. The main storyline is a crime vault video, but I decided to put these two topics in to cut down my time of going live. But Lily Peters will be the crime vault story for this morning. Thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $sign Big Angie 129, Cash App. All super chats and stickers are welcome during this live. The first information pertaining to Megan Boswell. WKRN is the source. Judge pushes Megan Boswell's trial back to February 6, 2023. Megan Boswell appeared in Sullivan County General Sessions Court at 9 a.m., where her legal counsel, Brad Sproils, requested that the trial get pushed back to February as fingerprints have been found on a crucial piece of evidence. The nature of the evidence was not revealed. District Attorney Barry Starvis agreed with Sproils that TBI lab results require more time. Judge Jim Goodwin reset the trial, originally scheduled for September 26 to take place February 6, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. He noted that he could have kept the initial September date. However, this may have resulted in a retrial. Goodwin set the next motion hearing for September 23rd, which will entail all further motions other than the possible change of venue. That hearing has been set for December 16th at 1:30. The full hearing is available below. It's about a 12-minute video. Boswell remains in the Sullivan County Jail on a $1 million bond. The court denied a request from the defense in January to lower it. So what was supposed to be a trial set in September has now been pushed back, and it will take place in February of 2023. Not the best news. Hello, everybody in the chat. Not the best news. And there's also a mention of change of venue, which I hope that they don't change it, because my thing is most people in this general East Tennessee area have heard of Megan Boswell and the disappearance of her daughter, and then later finding the child deceased on a family member's property. So where are you going to move the trial to exactly? West Tennessee, what? Chattanooga area. It's going to take up a lot of time traveling up and down the highway for witnesses, both sides, attorneys, state, public defenders, It's just ridiculous. Just keep the trial where it is. I don't know why these lawyers, these defense attorneys, they're always wanting to move a trial somewhere, as if people in the general area and state hadn't heard of the defendant and what they have been accused of. Most people in this area, from Knoxville to Virginia, heard about this baby because this case went all the way over into Virginia and North Carolina due to the lies that she spun about her mother having the child. So therefore, authorities were searching North Carolina, Virginia off of lies that Megan spun. So most people in this general demographic, at least 2 hours away, know about her and this child. I'm going to now bring you information pertaining to what she told law officials when they were interrogating her about the disappearance of her child. I don't believe I brought this information months ago, so I'm going to bring it out now because I just found it in a search. This was uploaded in April. Megan Boswell said she knew daughter was dead before the body was discovered, investigator says. This is information I've never heard before, to my knowledge, and I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. Megan Boswell, accused in the 2020 killing of her 15-month-old daughter, admitted to a state investigator she knew her daughter was dead, but denied responsibility. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Special Agent David Grass testified Thursday in court that Boswell told him Evelyn died after her boyfriend rolled over onto the child while they were sleeping. That testimony was the first time evidence has been presented in the case against Boswell in which she admitted to having knowledge of Evelyn's death prior to the discovery of the toddler's body. She said she was aware Evelyn was dead, Grass said. Grass also testified about previously unreleased information that Evelyn's body was discovered in an old playhouse that was originally built for Boswell to play in when she was a child. Grass was on the stand in Sullivan County on Thursday regarding a motion filed by Boswell's attorney, C. Brad Sproul, seeking to separate charges of filing false reports from the murder trial, in effect having a separate trial for those charges. Sproul argued the prejudicial effects of the false report charges could lead the jury to conclude she was guilty of murder without applying the proper burden of proof. The state says at their core, the false statements prove the murder, and that's the whole problem, Sproul said. Sullivan County Assistant District Attorney William Harper told Judge Jim Goodwin the false reports show Boswell's intense and guilty knowledge in actively covering up the disappearance and murder of her child. To that end, Harper had the TBI agent outline the multiple false stories Boswell told her friends, family, and investigators from the sheriff's office, the state, and the FBI. The toddler was first reported missing in February 2020 by her grandfather, Tommy Boswell Sr., who told authorities he had not seen the child since early December 2019. An Amber Alert was issued and the case drew interest from around the world. Nearly 3 weeks after Evelyn was reported missing, law enforcement agents found her remains inside a shed at the family compound. Boswell had been telling people Evelyn was with her father, Ethan Perry, since December 2019, Grass testified. She told investigators Perry was refusing to return texts asking about Evelyn, but she did not report her as missing to police on the advice of her mother, Angela Boswell. Later, Boswell changed her story and told investigators Angela had Evelyn and was refusing to return her. Grass testified that Boswell told them Angela gave Evelyn to an unnamed person, that Evelyn was safe and would have a better life with that person. Lord have mercy. Finally, in late February, Boswell admitted Evelyn was dead, but that she did not know where her body was, Grass said. Mercy. Goodwin will issue a written, ruling later, he said. He set a June 24th hearing date to discuss issues that include a motion to change the venue of the trial and a motion to postpone the trial due to a delay in some evidence still being analyzed. Boswell also is said to have a mental health evaluation, although Sproul said he does not believe she has a mental health issue. She doesn't. She's an intelligent young lady, he said, telling reporters after the hearing she said been actively engaged in her case. Goodwin refused earlier this year to reduce Boswell's $1 million bail, which was set after her arrest in February 2020. The 20-year-old could receive a sentence of life in prison without parole as she faces 19 charges related to the death of the girl, including felony murder and aggravated child abuse. Boswell's trial has been set for September 26, but that date may change. As I brought you commentary just now, the date has been changed. The trial has been moved up to February 6, 2023, because new evidence has been introduced with fingerprints on the evidence. So naturally, that evidence has to be sent to the FBI, or TBI rather, for further analysis. And naturally, you would not want late evidence being introduced while the trial is ongoing or starting, and then, as they said in this commentary, to have a retrial. Okay, I'm going to skip that September 26th issue. The case received international attention after the girl was missing for weeks. Megan Boswell spoke to the media several times with inconsistent and conflicting theories about who had her daughter. People, Oxygen, and even English tabloid OK published multiple stories on the missing toddler. The eventual discovery of Evelyn's body also made international headlines, though the circumstances of her death have never been made public. Evelyn was born in November 2018 to Megan Boswell, then 17, and Ethan Perry, then 19. Perry had joined the military a year earlier after graduating high school. Megan Boswell was living with her father and two younger siblings at the family compound in Bluntful at the time of the birth. Megan Boswell is accused of killing her daughter under two separate legal theories: that the child's death resulted from the act of child abuse or from an act of child neglect. The indictment alleges Megan Boswell abused her daughter's corpse, a charge typically leveled when a body is moved and hidden in some manner. Wow, interesting. That's the said information. Knox News is the source. Brought you two sources of information. The first source is to let you know that the trial has been pushed back to February 2023. New evidence, fingerprints, needs to be analyzed. Her attorney's wanting a change of venue, which I do not think she needs a change of venue. Because, as I said, most people have heard of this story in this general East Tennessee area. And from here to Virginia to North Carolina, people have heard of this story. The fact that she told the state investigator, that the boyfriend rolled over on the child. See, this is where one could say this is another lie, because she told so many different versions. Even the sheriff said publicly in front of a camera that he knew she was guilty and had never seen anybody lie so much and tell so many lies about the disappearance of their child. And you rarely have officials say anything of that nature to the general public. They may say it to other investigators, but they don't say it publicly about a defendant or a person involved in a case. And that's how they knew that she was behind the disappearance of the child. It's because the versions kept changing. She left the child with somebody, or the mother had her, then the mother handed her off to somebody. The mother was at a campground in Virginia. Just one story after the other. This case is similar to Susan Smith. Megan was liking this young guy, and I believe she was wanting a life with him, and perhaps he didn't want children. We haven't heard anything from him in the past 2 years, but that's the notion, is that she liked this guy. The baby was in the way, and she got rid of the baby so she could be with the guy. Now you have information coming out that she told investigators that that same guy rolled over on the baby. Now, what will he say to that, Megan Boswell? Because then that means he's complicit in rolling over on the child, allegedly. And then what? You looked at the baby, realized the baby was dead. Did you say to him, hey, my baby's dead? Then what? You went and hid the baby. So then that means he's complicit in knowing that the child is dead, allegedly, after rolling over on the baby. See, there's just more lies. And you can't believe anything she said. Nothing she has said. Because you don't even really know what happened to the baby. Only the medical examiner will reveal what happened to the child. And thank God the child was found at a decent amount of time to possibly where they can render the cause of death. And then the fact that you hear in this commentary, the child's been moved. So now you have to ask the ultimate questions. How did the baby die? Where did the baby die? And how many places has the baby been placed after death, where she's been accused of abuse of a corpse? And the fact that her attorney wants a separate filing of the reporting the baby missing, which that came late by her own father, it's ridiculous. It should be added into the murder charge, such as with Cal City. These people filed a report that the two toddler boys were missing months after killing them for whatever reason. To me, it's the same in this case. It shows intent to cover up a death, because a decent human would call 911 if a child had an accident. What type of person disposes of a body because of an accident? And we know that this has happened in time, that people have discarded bodies because of an accident, drug overdose, maybe a gun discharge, whatever. But once you are charged with the crime and go to court, you have to convince 12 members of a jury that it was an accident. And a logical thinking person is not going to believe it was an accident, because the first thing he or she is saying to him or herself, why would you discard a body of somebody that you know, like, friends with, date, your child, mother, whomever? Why would you not call 911 to say, hey, my baby didn't wake up, my boyfriend rolled over on the baby, or the child fell down the stairs, whatever the incident is? No sane person would cover up the death of another human being that they care about. 2, go and dump their body somewhere. And then once evidentiary material is discovered after the fact, try to explain to 12 members of a jury, oh, by the way, it was just an accident. And yeah, I know I shouldn't have hit the body, but I was what? Scared. Fearful of what? You're only fearful because you've done something to that person. And we already know that when bodies are discarded, 9 times out of 10, it is somebody that knows the victim. Because strangers rarely bury bodies. They have no reason to. If they kill you in the street, in your home, they have no reason to haul your body off and discard you. Because one, if nobody knows that you all know each other, they don't think they're going to be linked to the victim. They have no reason to discard the body. I believe, Megan, you killed that baby. And I believe you did it because you wanted to be with this boy that you were dating. You were posting all type of things on Instagram, pictures of a house that he had bought. You were hoping to have a life with him. And perhaps baby Evelyn was in the way. Perhaps he didn't want to be with a woman with a child. Perhaps, hell, he was just tired of you in general. Who the hell knows? I don't know, because he hasn't spoken. And I also found it baffling that the baby's father, if indeed Mr. Ethan is the father, he never came forward to give commentary about the baby's disappearance and death. It was after the fact his mother or stepfather spoke about the child's death, which was very baffling to me, that all these people are related to this child. Nobody had anything to say about her disappearance or her death. And I don't care that he was in the military. That has nothing to do with the fact that you are the father of a missing child. Then later, the baby's found dead. You have nothing to say to the public about your dead baby. So I don't believe in this, oh, he was in the military, he couldn't speak. Give me a break. And now, it is now 2 years later, and you still don't hear anything from Mr. Ethan Perry, his parents, nobody. And only God knows what the grandmother, Miss Angela, is up to and into, because she was a very busy body at the time of the investigation of this child. And it showed that none of these people needed to be around a child. Megan had a jacked up childhood alongside her siblings. Her parents were misfits. Her mother actively using narcotics and staying in trouble with the law with thefts and different crimes. She and the boyfriend at that time. And then here is this female having a child at the age of 17, which would tell anybody she was having sex at 16. So unsupervised, bickering parents. Now a child's having a child. And then the child shows up dead. And the mother gave 50,000 different versions of where the child was. And now in this article I bring you from April, she told investigators allegedly the boyfriend rolled over on the baby. Well, you can't believe that because she's already lied initially to investigators. So why would they believe that this guy rolled over on the baby? And you see, he has not been arrested as a co-conspirator or having knowledge that the child was deceased. Why not? Because they believe this is all Megan Boswell's doing. The boyfriend has not been arrested as a co-conspirator to the child's death or even having knowledge that the child was dead and or discarded. So now we ask that question. What happened to the baby? Did the boyfriend have anything to do with the baby's death? Did he roll over on the child? Did he know that the child was dead? Did she tell him the child was dead? And did he also help her discard the baby, move the baby? Or did she ever tell him how the baby actually died? See, you'll never know because she's never going to tell the truth. She's another Susan Smith. And I believe all these young people are copycats of other suspects who have killed their children because they all seem eerily similar to me. That's my sad information. Megan Boswell's trial has been moved up to February 2023. Her attorney's wanting a change of venue. Bail is still set at $1 million. She's not getting out of jail. New evidence has been introduced with fingerprints on it, and they're now at the lab against TBI or FBI to be analyzed. And God forbid, Miss Megan, those are your fingerprints on crucial evidence, quote unquote. Let's see how your lawyer talks his way out of that, alongside other evidence that they have against you. And also, nobody else has been arrested in conjunction to the disappearance and death of the baby. So that should tell you right there, they have probably a lot. Because from my understanding, there was a numerous amount of evidence against Megan Boswell in the death of her child. Thank you for joining me. The next commentary is pertaining to Summer Wells. As most of you know, the 15th will be on Wednesday. It will mark 1 year that a call went into the dispatch, Rogersville, Tennessee, that a little girl was missing. And nobody even thought that it would come down to 1 year later, we would still be talking about the disappearance of this child and where she is. WJHL is my source of information. Private investigators plan search for Summer Wells. This was uploaded the 12th of June. Almost a year after Summer Wells was reported missing, people are continuing to search for the missing Hawkins County girl. We've been at it for almost a year now, so you have to look at all areas. We have to look in areas like this in case there was an animal attack or something of that nature, said Chris Coble of CNC Investigations. We have to recanvass neighbors, re-interview witnesses in case we're missing something in an abduction type situation. So we're working on multiple fronts. CNC Investigations, who are also known for their work in the Luke Vance and Thomas Hastings cases, have focused their efforts on searching for Summer since last July. We have to charge something when we signed the contract with the Wells, but the rest of this has all been done free, pro bono, Cobo explained. We've been very lucky here that we've got a go-to person with local law enforcement, and they have treated us with respect as we do them, and hopefully we can all work together on the same team and get an answer. Coble says they have used a drone to search somewhere around 1,000 acres. Anything that we find, we take immediately and directly to law enforcement, and we don't discuss those things with anybody because the last thing we want to do would be to hinder their investigation in any way, he said. Law enforcement feels strongly that there could have been an animal attack. They have not ruled anything out. So again, you have to sort of attack this from any direction. On Saturday, 8 people, including one drone operator and the private investigators hired by the Wells, searched the property on the backside of Ben Hill Road. There were rumors of footprints and things that were found in the woods when Summer went missing. If you sort of look at that evidence and the surrounding properties and the directions those footprints were headed, sort of gives you an idea of where to go look, he said, Cobo. If the property owner knows that there wasn't a lot of people on his property when we probably needed to come out and do a thorough search, as thorough as possible, that's the main reason we're out here. Plus, most of the searches in the past have concentrated on the area between Ben Hill and the Fields Road, so there's a lot of interest in this area. First to deploy a nonprofit drone operations group has also been assisting in the efforts. We do all this free of charge. We don't charge the family. We don't charge law enforcement, so volunteer help is definitely good, said Chris Starn from the First to Deploy. We also use a Mavic 2 Pro that allows us to shoot in 20 megapixels, and we use that to run through a program called Locate. Locate can detect the color of a shirt from 200 feet in the air, even if it's the size of a quarter. One of the drones used in the search is also equipped with an infrared camera that can detect non-recorded burials up to 4 years old. When you put someone in the ground, basically as they decompose, and it kind of kills everything around it, as everything grows back over time, it flourishes. It kind of creates super fertile soil, and what you can detect on your infrared is the different color on the ground that you wouldn't normally see with the naked eye, Starnes added. Saturday's search also included a neighbor who says the environment is similar to how it was when Summer disappeared, but he still doesn't think she could be found in the area. It's a lot of ground to cover. It's very thick. I guess anything is possible once you have seen 2 solid weeks of so many people covering an area so thoroughly. It doesn't seem likely, but anything is possible, said Wells' neighbor, Richard Gorley. The private investigators typically do a search like the one Saturday, once a month in the area surrounding the Wells Ben Hill Road home. They plan to continue until she is found. If you need verification for the information, News 11 is the source. Thank you all so much for joining me. So a private investigator has been on this case of trying to find and locate the child. They're specifying that they search once a month for Summer Wells. I was curious to how long they had been on the case or hired by the family. I do believe here he says since last year. Let me make sure I quote that correctly. And they've worked in other cases with Luke Vance and Thomas Hastings cases, excuse me. Okay, and it says here, Thomas Hastings cases have focused their efforts on searching for Summer since last July. So obviously they've been involved since last July. Well, I just think it's interesting. He says once a month they've been looking for the child. And he talks about the rumors that everyone had heard of, about the child's footprints were seen. But see, that's the interesting part about a rumor. It hasn't been confirmed by law enforcement. And naturally, law enforcement is not going to confirm or deny anything that they don't want revealed to the general public. And due to all the messy Marvins that jumped into this case, hell no, they're not going to reveal anything. Why would they? And naturally, they're not going to tell anything that could help aid any parties involved in the disappearance of the child. He also mentions about an animal attack. Well, law enforcement has never confirmed that she was attacked. They just said we're really looking at every possibility. But naturally, we know the foul play is one of the possibilities. Because when you factor in where the child went missing from allegedly, you have to use common sense of who the parties would be to get the child gone, the motive, and how they would do it. The children who were left behind allegedly on the property, dogs on the property, a mother on the property, and her mother on the property. So you're talking about quite a few people on the property allegedly when the child went missing. So you have to use common sense. What are the odds of a stranger and or someone that knew them going onto the property to take the child and having knowledge of where the child could be found alone to kidnap her, abduct? It's illogical thinking to me. That's my opinion. You have to have knowledge that the child was in the basement or hoping she'd be outside alone. You also have to know that the family did not have security cameras. Cameras on the driveway, on trees, anything. You'd have to know that if indeed you knew the family. And the risk of not knowing who's on the property at the time of abducting the child. All common sense. And most of you who have followed this case, you have seen how they live, the demographics of the house, the broke up driveway, still illogical. Either way, coming up the driveway, any direction through the grass, the wooded trail, blah, blah, blah. I just don't see it. That's just my opinion. I just don't see it. That's just my opinion. I don't see it. That's the latest information pertaining to Summer Wells. On the 15th, which is Wednesday, I will be bringing you commentary to the anniversary of the disappearance of Summer Wells, which will be June 15th, 2022, 2 days from now. I don't know. It seems like a no-win situation pertaining to the disappearance of the said child. My commentary for this morning, thank you for joining me, is Lily Peters. This is a very baffling story from the Midwest pertaining to the disappearance of a child and who later was accused of murdering the child. Welcome to Crime Vault. It's been a while since I've done a Crime Vault story, but this is the said information. I usually do not talk during the Crime Vaults, and I don't engage in conversation because of the content. It's better that I don't speak or say anything. So I'm going to say this before starting. When you find out who the killer is, you have to ask yourselves, why didn't anybody notice any peculiar behavior of the suspect? What will happen to the suspect after the fact, due to the fact that it's a minor? Will the suspect be doing prison time as an adult or walk freely one day at 18 or 21 years of age? Has the suspect engaged in any felonious behavior with other said children? Did his father ever engage in felonious behavior with his own child, the suspect, and other children, including this victim? The fact that most of the people in the storyline are jacked up, criminal behavior, they had no business with children. And the fact that the grandfather, or the father, of the victim wanted access to his own child while incarcerated is baffling to me. And the fact that he went to prison for porn, you have to ask yourself, was he grooming his son to become a future pedophile? And is this where the child learned the behavior? It's because he was groomed by his own father when he was able to go visit his father, because he had split custody between the father and the mother. So did the father groom his own son? Did he expose him to pornography and also engaging in felonious behavior with other children along with his child? Did he even molest his own son? Because there are dual offenders, for those of you who do not know that. There are offenders who molest both sexes. Did he groom his son to become a sexual sadist? Did he ever touch his own son? Was the child touched by others? Because he had to learn this behavior in order to become an offender himself. What is the truth? And what will happen to him? Will he one day walk free amongst us and re-offend? Because once you talk about rape and murder at a young age, you have to ask yourself the obvious question. If after he's done so much time in a facility for youth, juvenile facility, and if the state decides to send him on to a regular prison and give him the opportunity to walk free, what are the odds that he will re-offend and also commit murder again? Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans, and this is also Crime Vault. This is the story of Lily Peters. Thank you for your support.
Can you show me how you do a pullover on your bar?
It's 2019. Lily Peters and Jennifer Everly outside.
What about, can you do a front flip, on the ground, or a round off? Or the splits? Yeah, can you do a flip forward, like do a headstand, but do a flip? Do a handstand, but then flip over? Now kick back over the other way. There you go. You're pretty awesome. I want to take your picture. Can you smile? Yeah, let me close this up a little. There, stay just like that. Don't move. Now look at me and smile.
Somewhere between 1 and 3 p.m., Lily Peters was seen laughing and enjoying her youth while rollerblading around her local area in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. 6 hours later, she vanished, and no one seemed to have any answers. But time was of the essence. This is an ongoing, awful case that's happening right now involving a child, and the details are coming from everywhere. I'm going to try to put them together for you the best I can. I'm warning you up front, this is going to be hard to hear, and you won't get another warning. I'm Mr. Black, and this is the disturbing truth about the tragic Lily Peters story so far. 10-year-old Ileana Lily Peters was reported missing at 9 p.m. on Sunday, the 24th of April, 2022. She was last seen leaving her aunt's house on the 400 block of North Grove Street. She was headed home. She lived nearby on the 50 block of East Birch Street, so she had her bike with her for the journey to and from. My research, if correct, indicates that Lily was staying with her father Alex at the time, and her mother Jennifer lived around 60 miles away. Alex knew Lily was out later than she should have been, but when he reported her missing, no mass action was taken by authorities because for an Amber Alert to be issued, certain protocol must be followed. The kid in question must be 17 years or younger, in serious danger of bodily harm or death, and there must be a description of the child plus a suspect or, at very least, a suspect vehicle. Seems like a lot of boxes to tick in a situation like this, and I can't imagine being a parent just waiting around in fear like that. Nevertheless, missing 10-year-old Lily Peters didn't meet the qualifications for an Amber Alert. But searching persisted in the community anyway, and overnight, Lily's bike was found by her father, possibly in a ravine near the cemetery.
I am a primary care.
Sorry about that.
Possibly in a ravine near the cemetery. The following day, police brought in dogs and drones to search the wooded area and investigate a hiking trail nearby. Then just after 9 a.m. on the 25th of April, Lily's body was discovered not far from there in the woods close to the walking trail in Chippewa Falls, northeast of Eau Claire. In the audio at the start of my video, you can hear Lily's mom crying out in the background as someone gives directions to the spot where they found Lily Peters. Jennifer had seemingly just found her daughter.
The search continues in Chippewa Falls tonight for the person who killed Lily Peters as her community mourns the 10-year-old. Hi, everyone. I'm Reddy Meyer.
And I'm Amy Hockert. She was first reported missing Sunday night, and then her body was found on Monday morning. Police are investigating her death as a homicide.
As far as we know, it could be anybody in this neighborhood, and that's just not sitting with me at all.
Along the wooded bike path where 10-year-old Lily Peters first went missing Sunday night and then was found murdered Monday morning. Investigators continue to comb the hillside, looking for any clues as the town around them waits on edge for any answers to calm their nerves.
When we get more info, if he's caught or not, he could be in Florida right now. He could be a block away. We don't know.
Jeremy and Shelby Mocknick live on Grove Street, where Lily spent Sunday at her aunt's home and where the Mocknicks last saw her.
At about 1 and 3, one of her cousins was on a hoverboard. He had his hands behind his back, and she was on rollerblades holding on, and they were scooting down the street just laughing.
The bike path is at the end of their street. It's where Lily would typically go to get home. It's where her bike was found in the woods, too. Another neighbor, Annika McLeod, was on that path Sunday evening as well.
We did go for a bike ride. I just wish it would have been at the right time.
Across Chippewa Falls, purple ribbons now fly in Lily's memory. In front of her elementary school, signs and flowers and stuffed animals serve as a memorial. Police presence is everywhere, and officers will be outside the schools, which gives some comfort, but still not answers.
There's been a really heavy police presence, which has helped with me and the kids at least, feeling a little bit better, but just knowing that she went down that trail and that was that, the same trail my kids walked down by themselves all the time. It was a safe place up until Sunday.
No one could figure out why the cops were at the aunt's house, but the police posted up there for hours, leaving the whole town wondering just what the hell was going on. Authorities were already calling it a homicide, but as the details emerged, it was a lot worse than that. Lily Peters had been beaten and strangled to death. Then, shockingly after that, the cruel monster forced itself upon her lifeless body. Lily was less than half a mile from home, in a place where witnesses report often seeing her ride her bike. She was discovered not far from the Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, by the banks of Star Lake. A child killer was on the loose in the small city of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and a place with just over 14,000 people, known for its rivers, lakes, state parks, and heritage, was scrambling to figure out what happened to the 10-year-old. What? Why? Who? The details were all up in the air at that point, and as you can imagine, no parent in their right mind was taking the situation lightly. Social media was crawling with concerned residents seeking justice for the brutal death of a little girl with a heart of gold and a smile that, as you can see, would melt right through you. A smile that was stolen. The Chippewa County coroner Ron Patton states that the preliminary autopsy results showed that Lily Peters died from blunt force trauma and strangulation, but it could take up to 6 weeks for the full medical report to be released. So who on earth would have wanted to kill this child so brutally? Well, once police started to buzz around Lily's aunt's house on North Grove Street, it quickly became obvious that there was more to the story than anyone realized. But the true depth and horror at hand was a hell of a lot darker than it initially appeared. A 14-year-old boy named Carson Peters Berger, as named by the Daily Mail, was arrested for the crime. As you probably guessed or already knew, Carson was Lily's cousin. He was charged with 3 counts relating to the death of Lily Peters. They read as follows: first-degree intentional homicide, first-degree sexual assault, and first-degree sexual assault of a child. Carson's case was taken to adult court because, in Wisconsin, luckily, that's where they deal with first-degree intentional homicide. It's highly hoped that his lawyer doesn't petition to have the case taken to juvenile court because, as Chippewa County District Attorney Wade Newell put it, there are no sentences in juvenile court.
We watched countless parents and their children lay flowers here at the memorial for 10-year-old Lily Peters, clearly still shaken up that a 14-year-old has been charged with allegedly sexually assaulting and then killing her. The community of Chippewa Falls is getting some answers tonight about what prosecutors say led up to Lily Peters' death.
Without knowledge as to who an offender is, that is a very concerning matter for the community. I have a 17-year-old daughter myself.
The 14-year-old suspect was referred to only by his initials as he appeared in court for the first time today via video. Our cameras weren't allowed to show the video screen or the court gallery. District Attorney Wade Newell requested a $1 million cash bond for the 8th grader.
State believes that there is a need to protect the community.
The criminal complaint and search warrants have been sealed in this case, so details have been scarce so far. The DA did say today that the teen told police his intention was to rape and kill 10-year-old Lily, sharing these disturbing details.
When he did get off of the trail, punched the victim in the stomach, knocked her to the ground, essentially strangled her, hit her with a stick before strangling her to the point of death before he then sexually assaulted her.
The judge ultimately granted the bail request, despite the defense's argument that the teen is not yet old enough to drive and therefore not a flight risk.
In light of his age and that circumstance, that setting that bond any higher than $1,000 is far beyond what's necessary to serve the goals of bail.
The teen faces 3 felonies: first-degree murder, first-degree sexual assault, and first-degree sexual assault of a child under 13.
Will the teen, known to us by his initials CPB, be charged as an adult or a juvenile for the murder and rape of Lily?
CPB's case is in adult court right now. The question is if his attorney will appeal to move the case to juvenile court. That's the only way a case can move to juvenile court, and even then, a judge still has to approve it. News 18 dug deeper into this topic recently after another high-profile case involving a minor in Chippewa County. We learned that there's a few key differences between the two. The main one is that once it's moved to juvenile court, the case is sealed and we won't know what happens to CPB. The focus in juvenile cases isn't on jail time, it's on rehabilitation.
There are no sentences in juvenile court. People are adjudicated delinquent and get court orders, but they're never sentenced.
The juveniles can be sent home to a detention center, or they can be placed in a facility like a mental health facility. Most juveniles, with rare exceptions, are released from supervision when they turn 18. If convicted in adult court, which is where this case currently is, CPB faces multiple life sentences.
To my knowledge, Carson appeared in court via webcam with his lawyers where he admitted that he not only committed the crimes, but that he'd been planning his actions for some time. The court heard how Carson wanted to break and kill Lily Peters from the start as he left the house and headed down the street with her. He was on his hoverboard and she was on her bike. They were on the nearby hiking trail when Carson suggested they go off the path.
Brief break, thank you.
Explore the woods some more. Unfortunately, Lily obliged. Once they got off the trail, Carson punched her in the stomach, knocked her to the ground, hit her about 3 times with a large stick, and strangled her to death before forcing himself on her body. He apparently got scared in the middle of the act and went home, leaving his clothes in the laundry, showering, and attempting to pretend like nothing ever happened. But once people began to worry about the whereabouts of his missing 10-year-old cousin, he panicked, went back to the woods, and moved her body before covering it with leaves. Lily was found naked from the waist down, with blunt force trauma to her face, and bite marks on her buttocks that Carson admitted to causing. Later, the autopsy revealed that her genitalia had also been split. There was also biological evidence found on Lily that linked Carson to the crime. And to make matters worse, the 14-year-old had threatened to harm Lily in the past. Yet somehow, she still ended up at his house after dark, and then later alone with Carson, who was waiting for the right moment to strike his cousin down. And then for some strange reason, Judge Benjamin Lane granted Carson bail at $1 million, also banning him from contact with any minors. But why the hell would he be granted bail? He admitted to what he did, and you want to let that thing out? I mean, even though the family probably can't come up with that kind of money, still, I find that decision insane. Apparently because Carson isn't of age to drive, they figured he wasn't much of a flight risk. But what does that have to do with his potential danger to those around him? It's mind-boggling if you ask me. But to my knowledge, Carson is thankfully still in custody. Let's just hope his family is unable to scrape up the money they need to bail him out. And speaking of family, not only were Carson and Lily related, but the family darkness spreads further, and we should definitely talk about it. According to comments on social media and an article on scallywagandvagabond.com, Carson's mother, Lorraine, or Lori Davis, the aunt Lily was visiting, has allegedly exposed Carson to drug use, other unspecified criminal activity, and a toxic relationship between her and Carson's father, 37-year-old Adam Berger. And Adam has a lengthy rap sheet of trouble with the law. And this just might be the key to what happened here, as well as the root cause of Carson's evil actions. And that seems even more apparent when we look at Adam's recent conviction record. Adam T. Berger was 31 while living at 1021 and a half Barland Street in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, a mere 20 minutes from Chippewa Falls, when he was arrested in 2016 for possession of drug paraphernalia, including 4 crack pipes. But that's not all. Also in Adam's possession were 10 explicit images of underage prepubescent girls with their legs spread. Carson's oddbag father had bizarrely superimposed his face on at least one of the images too. He'd also left vulgar comments on them. One of them read, "First in your little girl's asshole, and then in your mouth, Mom." What a bottom feeder. Court documents revealed that all of the illegal photos the cops recovered from Adam were primarily focused on exposed children's genitalia. An article on Leader Telegram stated that Adam was caught when the Justice Department of Criminal Investigation launched a massive operation looking into people who were sharing indecent child images online. He was convicted of 10 counts and jailed in 2018. I read that he was facing over 100 years behind bars, but somehow he served only 3 inside. In April of 2021, Adam was released from Oshkosh Correctional Institution. Word is he's been staying at a halfway house in Eau Claire ever since. Mr. Berger, the 14-year-old killer's biological father, is on supervised probation and the sex offenders register. He and his lawyers fought for unsupervised visits between Adam and Carson, with Adam stating that his son was the best of me. He further commented via court documents that Carson was unhappy, never smiled, and seemed miserable when in the company of his mother, 45-year-old Lorraine Davis. Again, she's Lily's paternal aunt, Alex's sister. And according to reports, even within the family, Lorraine, or Lori Davis, doesn't have a great reputation for parenting. As a matter of fact, Carson's own grandmother is believed to have said that Lori Davis was a horrible mother, stating, "We've seen him making the rounds with his mother and he never looks cheerful. He doesn't grin, he's generally tranquil, and simply takes a gander at the ground and doesn't talk." She also claims Lori restricted Carson's contact with the other Berger relatives. Rumors of a sour relationship between Lori and her son Carson are ripe. And apparently when his pedophile dad Adam was convicted, he was never the same. Reports indicate that Lori and Adam weren't together long. Apparently they separated when Carson was just 2. Then in 2017, she even called the cops on the sex offender, claiming he ran her over with the car. Adam wasn't allowed to have unsupervised contact with his son Carson, who was 8 at the time. But Lori apparently spotted a vehicle in an alley behind her house that seemed suspicious. She followed the car until it pulled into a random driveway. Then she discovered that Adam was indeed driving. When Carson exited the vehicle, Lori tried to stop the car from leaving, but Adam reversed into the mom, rolling her over the car, off the hood, and leaving her injured on the ground. When Adam went to prison, he remained in contact with his son, emailing him daily, and even sending him a blanket he made in prison, which is very Jesus of him. He petitioned the court for unsupervised visits, stating the following on May 14th of 2020.
"I am writing this letter from my son Carson. I am asking that unsupervised contact be permitted. I have 50% placement and custody. Carson is 12 now and will be 13 upon my release. My son and I have always been close. His mother and I split apart when Carson was about 2 years old. I found myself raising this little boy and I had no idea what I was doing. It was tough at first. I stumbled a bit, but I learned to balance working at the hospital and teaching karate around having Carson 50% of each week. I've always been in contact with his teachers. We would go through his backpack, doing all homework and his required reading. We love to fish, hike, go to movies, and play video games together. We have always done everything together, and he is a great worker and loves to help around the house. We work hard and play even harder. After I was sentenced, my mother was granted grandparents' rights. She gets Carson 1 weekend a month, and while Carson is with her, I get to speak to him on the phone several times that weekend. We talk about school, friends, movies, and video games. I make him laugh almost as much as he makes me laugh. The rest of the month, when he is with his mother, we email each other every day. He writes me about his day and about school, and he asks me to write about funny stories from when he was little. He draws me pictures and makes cards for me on the holidays, and I send him paintings and drawings. I've also learned how to crochet and made him a 6 feet by 6 feet blanket for his bed. I always let him know that I'm thinking of him and that we still have a future together. Carson is my number 1 priority. I had 2 years after my arrest before I was sentenced. I was ordered to have a chaperone present while I had Carson. I had him every weekend and Wednesdays. Nick Melhoney, Katie Weathers, and my mother Mary chaperoned. Thanks to them, I never willingly missed a day with Carson. It was and would be a hardship to go through supervised visits again, and I think more of one for Carson, especially now that he is a teenager. I understand the reason for the court-imposed condition as far as protecting society and allowing my supervising agent to monitor contact with minors. The wording of the condition might create the impression that I can have contact with other minors with agent approval, but that I may not have contact with my son unless I have a chaperone. Since my son is not a victim of my offense, and since I have not committed a child sexual assault, this condition could be more narrowly tailored so that it doesn't end up being such a hardship on my son. I implore this court to allow me unsupervised contact with my son so we can get back to a routine and normalcy. My son is the best part of me. Thank you for your time.
You heard that right. Convicted sex offender Adam Berger taught karate and worked in the hospital. The courts denied his request. Carson's mom, Lori Davis, has a record of her own, too, including a number of drug offenses and even a battery charge dating back to 2005 when she's believed to have assaulted her previous husband, John Davis. Then at some point, Lori Davis began dating convicted fraud offender John Repetto. John, possibly Carson's stepfather, has recently come under heavy fire for the posts he makes on Facebook. Now, I'm far from woke, and I'm also not easily offended. In most cases, I think I can tell the difference between an edgelord and someone with truly disturbed intentions. So when I heard Carson's mother's boyfriend was getting a lot of hate surrounding Lily's murder, my first thought was context. You know, things can be taken out of context, especially considering the situation. Then when I loaded up John's page, the first thing I saw was a post where he states, "Yeah, let's go on about how offensive my Facebook page is. There's a time and a place, and this is not the time. Thank you." Now, why he didn't immediately make his Facebook page and all his posts private, I don't know. But last time I checked, there were over 3,000 comments. Many posts on John Repetto's Facebook profile appear to be public, and it doesn't seem as though he's made any attempt to make them private to avoid the shitstorm raining down on his page. At first, I kind of felt bad for John. I mean, after all, he's not Carson's pedo father. He's simply Lori's boyfriend, and I don't know what kind of relationship he had with Carson. It initially felt like he was being unfairly pounced on by the mob, and in this specific case, I've seen the mob doing it to other people who didn't deserve it, like friends of the family. So I thought that's probably what this was. But then when I started looking closer at his public posts, I really started to wonder what kind of influence John had on Carson. His posts included pictures promoting serial killer Ed Gein for president, memes about saying "Hell Satan" to children, a completely inappropriate meme featuring a bare-assed child who seemed to be passed out, face down on the floor of a feces-covered room, and then two of what I can only describe as the worst posts I found on his page. One basically says, "You know you're good in bed when the person you're forcing yourself upon gets off before you do." The other is a meme with a picture of a dolled-up Barbie on the left that reads, "Friday night," next to a picture on the right that reads, "Sunday morning." The photo on the right shows the Barbie's naked, severed lower half on the ground, with its rear in the air, and a gaping hole at the base of it. You're right, John. There is a time and a place. It's clear that grindcore-loving John Repetto was an edgelord piece of shit, in my opinion. And I'd be lying if I said that the circumstances surrounding Lily's murder at the hands of Carson didn't make John's social media posts look even worse than they are. And they're pretty bad. Like, do you think this makes you badass to put this up on public and leave it up? Do you think you're hardcore? Well, look where that trashy false bravado got you. In the fucking hot seat. Loser. And given the circumstances, people got a goddamn right to investigate what you've been posting, especially if you lived with Carson. So I'd say it is the time and it is the place. And at the time of writing this, there's been no response from John's Facebook since that last post. And it's still public because John Repetto's a badass. You know, like Steven Seagal or Ed Gein. Oddly enough, I also read a rumor that John may have even dated Lily's mother at some point. So is he simply a creepy POS edgelord, or was he another bad influence on Carson? On the other side of Lily's family, her mother, 38-year-old Jennifer Irely, is currently on probation after being convicted of several counts of theft. Reports indicate that she even stole 4 credit cards from her own mother and ran up a bill of nearly $8,000 on them. And rumor has it that she even scammed her aunt and uncle out of $10,000 by making up jobs that weren't real. I mean, she allegedly went as far as conducting false interviews to coax them out of handing over their bank details. And to be fair, even Lily's father, Alex Peters, has his own records indicating battles with drugs and alcohol. While none of these alleged statements make anyone a murderer, it's easy to see why the internet is in such an uproar about this. A 14-year-old boy, son of a pedophile, killed his cousin and necrophiled her dead body. When you take all the facts and information that's out there, it's very hard to ignore the picture it paints when you put it all together. Now, I don't think anyone should be out there harassing or threatening this family, but people are gonna dig up dirt and sift through your closets for skeletons when a little girl gets killed and necroed by another child in the family. I don't think there's any getting away from that. Also, from what I've read, Lily was discovered shortly after a Reddit user posted the following online under a post about Lily.
What's scary is I was playing Pokemon Go in the park that day walking along the very same trail. My stomach turns when I think that I saw that girl in a pink and purple hoodie on her bike with another kid on my way out. I have suspicion that it could be another kid that did it.
I don't know if that's what led the cops to Lily, but I do know that someone on Reddit notified the authorities about the post, and now I can't find the original anywhere. I looked for the account again, but I don't think it's been active since, as far as I can tell. It seems like it just disappeared. Now all that's left are screenshots. But one of the biggest issues with this case right now is that of the Amber Alert. People aren't happy that Lily's disappearance wasn't issued an Amber Alert, and they want the rules changed in certain circumstances. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great system, and it's now used in almost 30 other countries. Hell, since December 31st of 2021, it's helped locate over 1,100 missing children. So I'm not knocking the Amber Alert. It was named after Amber Hagerman, a little 9-year-old girl who was kidnapped in Arlington, Texas, while out riding her bike. She was found a couple days later near a stream in the woodlands. The idea behind an Amber Alert is to help stop an abduction in its tracks by pinging every phone and device with a notification. This never happened for Lily, and maybe it should have when her father reported her missing at 9 p.m. Would it have saved Lily? Who knows? But under the circumstances, in hindsight, I'm sure it wouldn't have hurt. Honestly, judging by the details of this case, it seems like the crime had already been committed at this stage. Guess we'll know more when more details are released in regards to the timeline. I know it's important not to wear out alert systems like the Amber, but maybe there is something else we could do in circumstances like this. Eric Henry has started a petition on change.org to introduce something called the Lily Alert. It would make it easier for loved ones to get help quickly when a child goes missing. The idea is to get the petition to State Senator Kathy Bernier and work out the details to add another stage to this process. To me, that seems like a conversation worth having, and a good place to start when it comes to saving children. The link to the petition is in the description down below, and it currently has over 130,000 signatures, including mine. Maybe you should sign it too so we can start a real conversation about the Lily Alert. Lily Peters was a 4th grade student at Parkview Elementary in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. There's now a massive memorial in front of the building remembering and celebrating the life of Lily. It's packed with stuffed animals and banners demanding justice, as well as a theme of purple flowers and ribbons. Not far away on Jefferson Avenue, there's another memorial facing Duncan Creek near where the 10-year-old's body was discovered. Walking through downtown Chippewa Falls, you can see a small city decorated with purple chalk, purple balloons, purple ribbons on poles, and even purple flowers, all placed for the purpose of remembering Lily Peters. Carson Berger's second court date was on the 5th of May. His legal team asked the judge to seal the criminal complaint. The judge denied the request, and a statement was released to the public containing specific details about the crime that directly links Carson Berger to the murder of Lily Peters. I think someone turned Carson into a monster, and it cost 10-year-old Lily Peters her life. Lily will forever be remembered for her infectious smile. Carson, you will forever be remembered for the cruel betrayal of that smile. I hope you're tried as an adult, and you never taste freedom again. I wonder what made Carson the monster he became. I wonder if the adults in his life led him down the cold path of darkness. At the minute, we can't know for sure, but here's what I think might have happened, and it's just a loose theory. It could be way off. Maybe Adam Berger was abusing little girls and groomed his son to help him. It's possible that this may be where Carson developed his dark urges. I mean, I don't know where Adam got the 10 photos that he was convicted of possessing, but if 100 years of time was initially on the table, is it possible that he produced them? I also wonder if Adam or Carson had ever messed with Lily before. We know Carson had threatened her previously, and I wonder if he'd done more and maybe she threatened to tell on him. Unfortunately, no one knows at this point. But I also wonder about the incident where Adam hit Lori with the car after she confronted him and Carson in the alley. I mean, maybe his actions were the result of fear of going back to prison, but I still wonder what they were doing in that car. I mean, Adam was in such a hurry to get away that he ran over his son's mother in the process, seemingly on purpose. I wonder if he was hiding something, maybe even hiding someone. It's all speculation at this point, but it seems to me like somewhere between Adam Berger and John Repetto lies the key to the negative influence that created the little monster that is Carson Berger. I know technically his name's Carson Peters Berger, but he doesn't deserve Lily's last name. Also, I read something else about Home Slice Nation 4, the Reddit post we talked about earlier. Now, I've been unable to verify this yet, but there are claims online that a few years ago, the same account posted, "I'll kill my cousins before anyone else gets a chance." Who is Home Slice Nation 4? What happened to the account? Did convicted pedophile Adam Berger create this monster his son became? How long has Carson had these feelings? And what influence did John Repetto have over him? These are all questions that we hopefully will see answers to soon. Aaron McCarthy, a friend of Lily's family, has organized a GoFundMe to help the family pay for funeral arrangements and memorial expenses. Reportedly, the money will go to Lily's grandmother and her father. And that's the story of Lily Peters so far. Carson Berger is one of the monsters in that family. No mercy for evil. I'm Mr. Black, and this.
Thank you all so very much for following the content. This is a very horrific story of a boy child who killed his own cousin, sexually assaulted her, and beat her to death. Was he groomed by his father? How did he become a sadist at the age of 14? Had he also assaulted other children? Was he exposed to pornography and grooming tactics by his father or any other adult or child? And what will become of him when he becomes a legal adult? Will he be set free to walk amongst us? Will the record be hidden as a child, even though this was allegedly set in adult court, criminal court? Or will he be set free, 18, 21, to only reoffend? And will he reoffend? Thank you all so much for joining me. This is Crime Vault, the death of Lily Peters. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $Beganji129 Cash App. I will be back a little while in the afternoon with commentary pertaining to 31 arrests in Idaho at a gathering for gay pride. And we will chop up the said information. And I will also have a guest who will speak pertaining to their own personal experience as a bisexual female. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.